Alright, hello everybody, my name is Tanner Kyler, and today I'm here in Osage County, Oklahoma, bringing you a really special plant to me, and this is the antelope horn milkweed, also known as Asclepia viridis. It is native to most of North America's tallgrass prairies, native here to Oklahoma, and it is one of the most prolific species that we have here. It actually is one of the few milkweeds that really hasn't taken much of a damper due to the use of pesticides and herbicides to drive these guys away. And actually, looking right here, I see a caterpillar on this guy. This is one of the host plants for the monarchs. So all of the host plants that the monarchs use are in the milkweed family. The reason why monarchs can only lay their babies on milkweeds is because they have a toxin in them called latex. That toxin is also toxic to humans and pets, so you do not want to be consuming this plant. But the monarchs are specialists with this plant. So they lay their eggs on here, and these are the only plants that monarchs will lay their eggs on or can lay their eggs on. And the babies consume the leaves of this, which then they get this toxin inside of them, which makes sure that the birds do not eat their babies. The babies consume this and become toxic and then grow up and then leave. They grow up and leave and then move on to the migration north into Canada. This is one of our earlier blooming milkweeds here in Oklahoma. This milkweed is also one of the smaller ones. It only gets about 2 to 3 feet tall, but it has a very large root system that goes straight down. It does have a large taproot, which makes it very difficult to dig up and to divide like you can a lot of our native milkweeds, but it does grow very well from seed. So after a cold stratification, and I have a video I'll put in and put above about how to cold stratify seeds. After a cold stratification process, they do grow readily from seed. So that is one of the really cool things about these guys. They also spread a lot of seed. So they bloom here late April right now into May. They'll bloom in the earlier parts of the year, and they have these beautiful greenish to purple flowers, and I'll show those up close here, and I'll throw in a clip right now, show how beautiful these flowers are that bees and butterflies just love. The monarchs, as they're arriving on their spring arrival here in Oklahoma right now, this is one of the first things and only things that's blooming for them to lay their babies on. In front of us, we actually have some dogbane, which is also related to the milkweed, but we'll talk about them in another video. I'm in a hay meadow here, and this area is cut once a year, but this area that I'm sitting in right now that has all this milkweed here behind me and in front of me is actually kind of protected in the way that it doesn't get any kind of herbicide use like a lot of our meadows do here. And so that is why they're doing so well here. So we have them and a plethora of other species that I'll talk about in other videos one day, along with a really cool sensitive plant that grows right here. It's a native sensitive plant. When you touch its leaves, it curls up. That's completely unrelated. I just saw it and it distracted me. They get like I mentioned, they have a very rigorous root system, which means that they are very drought tolerant. So as they grow down deep into the soil, then they'll shoot up these 2 to 3 feet tall flowers here. They only live 3 to 5 years. Unlike some of our other native prairie plants, like these grasses right here, these big blue stems can live for up to a century. These guys live 3 to 5 years. They're prolific seeders, so they spread around everywhere. But with that short lifespan, they produce enough seed to make sure that they come back year after year after year. So once you get them established on your property, they are actually a bit tricky to remove, and a lot of herbicides don't even really work on these guys too well. They're extremely drought tolerant. These are doing well here because this area is actually a bit boggier, a bit wetter than other areas they grow. So they do really well here because it is cut once a year or twice a year. So when they come up in the spring, there's very little competition around them, and they actually they just spring to life. So they die back every year during the winter time and then grow back from their root system after that. That's why they are perennials, but they're pretty short-lived perennials, only living 3 to 5 years. But like I said, if you get a good colony of them, they spread through seed, and you'll get tons of them popping up all over the place. I haven't seen any monarchs yet, but as soon as they arrive, this will be one of the first things they use. One of the other things I've noticed is if you cut them back after they bloom, in the spring they actually will grow back and normally bloom in the fall once again. I don't encourage doing this because we really want them to produce their seeds, which do take some time. So right now they're blooming here in late April. They can bloom all the way through June. Pinning here, we're normally done through June, but if you're up in the northern climate, they might be blooming more in June. But then they produce these large, and what gives them their name, Asclepia viridis. They're also called Green Antelope Horn Milkweed because they get these large green seed pods that look like pronghorn horns. Not much can actually eat them because they are toxic, but the monarchs make great use of them and a lot of pollinators. So we have bees, a lot of native bees, and other things will come in here, use these guys to their benefit. There's actually a really beautiful spider right here. So this thing is a host plant for a plethora of different things. There are other species like moths and stuff that can use these as well. So they are excellent for your pollinator gardens. And they're also something you don't normally find in cultivation because a lot of people don't think this is the prettiest flower. But as I'll show you up close, if you just take a second to really look close, these are absolutely beautiful magenta purple flowers inside of these purples. So these are actually probably just false flowers. These are probably more like leaves that are on the outside, and the true flowers are on the inside here. So I'm going to go ahead and show that up close. They have about 15 to 20 leaves per stem, so they have a lot of leaves, so that whenever the monarchs land on them and start munching away through the leaves, it doesn't put much of a damper on them. Also, going back to what I was talking about with them liking the drier soils, they normally grow in prairies that are shorter, that are more in the areas that are on rocky glades and stuff, where there's not as much competition. But being here in this hay meadow where we cut it once or twice a year, they actually do very well here. So this area cut a couple times a year, and they seem to like that. And you'll see them growing in areas that are grazed by cattle where the grass is shorter, so they have a lot of area to spread. But they're not doing as good as I'd hoped them to, because a lot of ranchers and farmers see these as just pests, and they spray them out with herbicides any chance they can, as they don't see them as anything that produces food for their cattle, which is true. But the thing is normally when these things are taking over your meadows, you don't have a problem with milkweed, you have a problem with overgrazing. There isn't enough competition. Like I mentioned, they need shorter prairies or drier areas to grow, so they don't get outcompeted by these tall grasses that get 8 to 10 feet tall. So with that, I think that's about it for today. This is just a beautiful shot, and you can see all these milkweeds growing out here. There's also some lace leaf coreopsis growing up here on this hill right now that's in bloom, and there's just a ton of wildflowers. So I'll be doing a lot more here. I might do a tour of this whole meadow and show everything that's growing in it. But these guys are under my protection for right now, and they shouldn't be sprayed by herbicides. So this is a nice genetic population to hopefully keep growing into the future. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to give a comment if you have any questions or concerns with it, and we'll see you next time.